How are you getting on? You well? Are you well? And you will be loved. How's things? Are you good? You having a stress-free Christmas? Oh my God, let me tell you. Oh, I'm trying to wind down. But people have been very sound, right? I've put myself under pressure when I told Terry and the boy, even though he didn't care, that I wasn't going to be doing nothing for December. It was going to be nothing but looking at Christmas trees and waiting for Boba Fett to come out on Disney Plus. There was going to be nothing else in between that, right? Maybe Don't Look Up. I don't care if it's getting bad reviews. It has serious cast, right? This is me. It's my 2022, breaking free of what reviewers say about movies, right? And seeing if I like them myself. Because most of the movies I liked as a kid, reviewers think are fucking shit. Ghostbusters 2 is brilliant. But I ended up then tacking on quite a lot. It wasn't live gigs, but I've decided to do all these video messages, personalised video messages for Merchants Quay Ireland. Merchants Quay Ireland, I have to say, are a fabulous charity. I've admired them for a while. I haven't done anything with them yet, and this is the first thing I've done to kind of support them. But I love what they do. I always see them out. You always see them out in town. You always see the people queuing up for resources off them on the quays, and they help people with homelessness. They help people, just give them a hot meal and a roof over their head, or they help them with drug counselling and rehabilitation. They get people out of kind of volatile, dangerous situations, It's incredibly hands-on, and they don't really get enough coverage. So what I said was, hey, I don't do cameos and stuff like that, so if you want me to do a video message, I'll do it, as long as the money goes directly to Merchants Quay, and that's what we've been doing. But I tell you, no, I'm really enjoying doing it, but it's a lot. 50 I have to do, and it's a lot. Like 50 coins would be like, that's too many coins, and it would be arduous to put all 50 somewhere. Now, when you're turning on the Tone Show, it's a different. That's a process. It's a process that I need to fucking speed up with. So I felt a little bit snowed under with it, but it's enjoyable. I'm hearing about people's lives, and I'm hoping that they're good enough that people actually, crack a smile over Christmas and enjoy it, I remember we got a cameo of Solid Snake from a mate Joe's stag. And he was like, love is a battlefield, Joe. I hope you and Joanna have a very special relationship. And I was like, this is brilliant. This is class. So I know what impact it can be. My mate Nelly got one for Gangrel. And he was driving his car, and he's like, what's crack, man? Hope you keep fanging and banging. Gangrel of White Wolf Entertainment. So I know that they're a bit of fun. And I will never do them again. I might do them again next year, but I will figure out a way of integrating it better into my lifestyle and not being so precious with it. But right now, I know the tone might sound a bit down. Hey, might be like, is Cantwell under the weather? Because the tone is down. The tone is a bit down. No, I'm drinking a bit of whiskey here, and it's a bit of TC After Dark. It's after me doing a series of these. And look, I don't know what I'm going to be talking about on today's pod. What I was going to do was and I will do this. Sorry, so what I am going to do is I'm going to be going to Cosmopolitan Magazine's top 50 wildest events of 2021, just to see what I remember, giving myself a bit of a recap. In the new year, on I think the 3rd or the 4th of January, I'm going to be doing a best of, not a best of, sorry, that's next week, but I'll be doing a kind of my best things from 2021, my favorite movies, games, TV shows, moments, pop culture things. But for this, let's just say, look, right now, I'm not going to lie, and this podcast has also been delayed, me actually recording it, because I've been in a horrible form. Normally, I'm kind of like a slippery little fish, and I'm able to like dodge out of the tuna nets of the news and mass media and everything I should be feeling. But I felt like a porous sponge of shite recently, taking absolutely everything in. I think a lot of people feel the same way. That like, I have more people. There's more people than I can count on my hand that can't come home for Christmas, and just everyone having to navigate how many days when the symptoms first showed up. The inevitability of the Omicron variant, which as well, do you know what pissed me off with the Omicron? Every time I hear Omicron, I'm like, that's a cool word. What are you talking about? Transformers? What did you say? Is Decepticons come back? No, he's talking about a new strain of coronavirus. That's the opposite of what I want. So the Omicron variant. What? Megatron's come back? No, Omicron. Is that where the Transformers live? No, it's new. You're getting me down big time, chatting shit like that. I thought we were having fun with like toys that turn into other things, So that so Omicron's been getting me down, and all the fucking now I see it affects me. It is so minimal how even new restrictions genuinely affect me. Right? It's I said to Terry when they were like they're changing. This is going to date so bad, but if you're listening to this on the day that comes out, on the within the week. This week they brought in restrictions so that every live event is at half capacity, including cinemas, which you feel for them, and everything has to be wrapped up by 8. Pubs are closed by 8. My very organized friends who had like booked tables and places, I've had to rearrange them. My friends putting on gigs, doing comedy gigs, have to move them from 8 o'clock to 6 o'clock, and all this stuff. I don't have that not right. But I said to Terry, I was like, enough is enough. I'm going to march on the street. I'm going to march on the streets, I said. And she goes, all right. And she's like, I understand, but like, what is the alternative? Like, it really doesn't affect us that much. Really, it's just us pushing instead of 8 o'clock and it's 9 o'clock. Do you know what I mean? That's really it, because that's all we get as parents of a child. But I was wound up. But you know what? My friend Ali, who's a nurse, she was saying we were complaining. And about everything changing. And this was when they were talking about 5 p.m. and everything like that. And she goes, I know what you mean. It is very annoying. On a side note, we did have to send 2 kids up to Northern Ireland because there weren't enough ICU beds, 2 babies. And you're like, you know what I mean? Fair enough. Do you know what I mean? Will I just plan something for 6? You know what I mean? We'll just plan something for 6. It feels like it's everything taken away. Every decision feels like everything being taken away, even though it affects me so minimally. Also, I'm also, I've done 100 podcasts this year, so I kind of don't want to dip in to the Cantwell of myself right now. As I told you on the Patreon podcast, right now I feel like it's the big snow and people have ravaged the shelves of Aldi of my mind. And I'm going in there trying to look for stories. But it's been ravaged. There's nothing in there. Everything has been decimated. Everyone has grabbed everything. All that's left is a dusty can of Del Monte. And I'm thinking to myself, well, they just read this on the podcast. Pineapple slices and syrup. and 5% syrup. Although I would tell you this. Christmas lights, right? I bought these Christmas lights, right? And I kind of said to Terry, I like tacky as fuck colourful Christmas lights. It's what I was reared on. I don't have many kind of like Christmas traditions, like home Christmas traditions. Of course, putting the Christmas tree up, putting the things up, Christmas dinner and all that stuff. Having a trifle, that's a tradition of my mum's, So we have a few. But the like of the ones that I'm never willing to give up for the rest of my life, it is colourful Christmas lights, right? Everyone getting all highfalutin with just their white lights. Give me all the colours, right? Give me something that look like the Gremlins could be in there, hanging in the back. So I got these colourful Christmas lights, and I got these warm yellow Christmas lights because Terry wants warm yellow, right? I spent a fucking fortune. I won't say the next F word. Fortune on these Christmas lights. And I took them home and I thought, right, I'm going to put the colourful lights on first. Just so that the other lights can go over it, right? And what I didn't realise was the lights that I bought, and my tree is about maybe 6'7", right? I bought 27 meters, 70 feet of lights, and I couldn't even really get them out of the box. And I was putting them on, and Terry was all like, that's too many lights. That's too many lights. There is nothing but wires. It looks like a robot tree, right? It looks like that scene in Superman 3 where your woman goes into the thing and all the wires go into her and she turns into a robot. She didn't say that, but that's what I kind of got the vibe she was getting at. It looks like the Borg ship. There's so many wires coming out of this thing. It was, to be fair, blocking everything. It kind of looked like a walnut whip, but instead of chocolate, it was wires, right? And so I had a bit of a strop. And I was like, you're not helping me. You're not helping me with the wires. And she's like, that's too many wires. And I'm like, oh no, it's just because you didn't want the colourful lights. You're not helping me. And I made it. I kind of tried to deflect it and be like, oh no. It's like, fine, I'll take. And because I had already realised the jig was up here. I had an electronic walnut whip in the sitting room, and it wasn't looking good. There was wires everywhere. So I made it out to be, oh, fine, Terry, I know you don't want the colourful lights. I'll take the lights off. And I realised very quickly there was not a fucking hope of me getting these lights off this tree. There was no way. There was no way. I couldn't find where I'd started. It was already mangled and wrapped up. And so what I had to do was kind of like group them all together and kind of slide them down. Try and turn them into like a hula hoop of lights and pull them down the tree. Even though, of course, as a tree gets skinnier at the top, it gets tighter. So I was pulling this kind of ring of lights just down the tree, and I was like stuffing the branches up and around. Branches were breaking. There was pines falling everywhere. Terry at one point was like, stop, it's already dead. She was like, you're killing the tree. She said, you're killing the tree. And I'm like, well, you don't want the colourful lights. And I made it out like it was her fault. It was my fault. And I slid it down, and I was very, I can't believe, and I'm a very, I can't believe I didn't take a scissors out. I was so close to taking a scissors out, but honestly, these were very expensive lights. I managed to shimmy them all down and get them off. And I was like, there's your, I was a dickhead about it. I was like, there's your, now, no colourful lights. And then she just started pissing laughing at me. And she's like, what the hell was that? What were you doing? And I was still too sore. I'm still a bit too sore about it. I won't laugh about it. But I got the lights off. And I will be returning them. Even though, oh my God, woe betide anyone who opens this box of lights ever again. It's impossible. It is impossible for anyone to ever untangle these lights again. But I am going to return them. Because, I think I think there should have been some sort of difficulty rating on the lights. I think there should have been a kind of a traffic light system. Because this would have been a rich amber, if not full red. So, but having said that then, the other lights, which weren't 72 feet long, and were, a good cool, I don't know, maybe 20 feet long, I went to put the young fellow up to bed, and I was only up there for about half an hour, and I came down and Terry put all the lights on. all the amber light, or all the warm yellow lights. And I was like, how did you do that? And she's like, I took them out of the box, and I bunched them all up, and I just hung them around the tree. And I'm like, you're a liar. Someone must have come in here. So that's another little DIY mishap in the Cantwell household. So, but I will be getting a refund. And look, I am not afraid to cry. I'm not afraid to cry in front of another man. Be like, I wanted these for my family. They weren't good enough. I can't take these back, please. I will do that. But look, that's not what we're talking about today. What we're talking about today is recapping the year 2021. I don't remember what the fuck happened. So, luckily, we have Cosmopolitan magazine that will help me remember on today's Tony Cantwell Shitshow. It's Tony Cantwell Shitshow. And I know you and you know me. And 2022 plus 1 makes 23. Let's have a 3-in-1. Let's have a 3-in-1. Everyone go to Chinese for the 3-in-1. 2021. What even was that shit? Huh? What even was that shit? I remember 2020. And I'm kind of au fait with the memes of 2020. And I kind of know what happened. But it seemed like there was like a ramp up. I think 2021 is probably the worst year in the history of video games. Can we say that? I think 2020 just about had, there was big development things that happened to be released. 2022 is not shaping up good, but look, we're not going to talk about video games right now. 2020 had a big year for film. No, 2019 more so. Anyway, you had the big TV shows. You had the big things like Tiger King, Normal People, and all that stuff. But 2021, I can't remember what happened. See, 2020 for me, sorry, I'm jumping all over the place, but 2020 for me was a very important year. It was the year of 2 new incredible relationships. One is, of course, the dialogue now that you and I have. Was really starting the podcast and getting into the thick of things. Developing the dynamic of you becoming my employer, essentially, because you listen to this and, you listen to sponsors or you support through the Patreon and kind of cultivating that relationship. And also I became a father, and each month was like a new thing. If you look at the photos of 2020, every single month there's something completely new. It looks like the most lived in year ever when we had, I don't know, like 16 square feet. You know what I mean? It was barely anything we could move with, but it looks like the most lived in year. 2021, I'm not saying it was a bad year, but it was kind of like more the same. More the same. Now, for me, more the same because of how lucky I am in life was like eating a giant Haribo tit. You know, I'm a very lucky man. So it was another perfect year. But I don't really remember what happened. So I'm going to go on to Cosmopolitan magazine, who's always been quick with a joke and light up your smoke when it comes to, kind of relationship advice. But they're always good with the old pop culture. So the 50 wildest pop culture moments of 2021. The wildest Atlantic way. We were driving on the Ring of Kerry. It was bloody wild. Wild Connemara winds. Okay, number 1. Paul Wesley being confused about Madison beer. Glib Glorp being confused about Mlachsenplanen. I don't know who the fuck either you are. But Paul Wesley, bro, with the greatest respect to you seem like a handsome guy. It looks like someone has shrunk your face into the center of your head. It looks like someone has taken a kind of squidgy brush from Photoshop and put the little circle over your face and brought your eyes in from the top of your head into the center of your nose and your mouth up from your chin. You have a lot of face going on in the center of your head. But famously, people in Hollywood have very large heads. Anyway, Paul Wesley thinking that Madison beer was a kind of literal beer. I don't know who she is either. This isn't going to work. This isn't going to work. Hang on. Let's find another list. Here we go. All right, Mashable. 44 things you forgot happened in 2021. Here we go. Number 1. The Capitol insurrectionists made January 6th a day America will never forget. It's hard to wrap our brains that this horrifying event... Listen, I'm not saying it wasn't bad. This is when all the Buffalo Bills... this was when inevitably, because of how polarizing the political and media landscape is and the amount of misinformation spread, that people in literal horns showed up to piss on Nancy Pelosi's desk. The inevitability that this was going to happen. And the fact that these white people got so far, that they tried to invade... I might be missing out on something here because I don't want to cancel myself here. But didn't the people who died try to invade in a gun-ridden country the most secure building on a continent, arguably, the Capitol building? Isn't that supposed to be the most where all the politicians are? Isn't that like the most secure building in North America? You know, I'm not. You know, I don't want to be flippant with it. Am I missing something? Because it's like is it a tragedy in the way that people are like, this could have been avoided and misinformation and the inevitability, or are you talking because now it's kind of called Jan 6th in the same way that 9/11 is like September the 11th. Like they're very good with using the dates. I need to do that with my anniversary. It's December 22nd. I need to be like, never, ever forget. December 22nd. Never forget how in love you are with your wife. December 22nd. Never forget. 12/22. 12/22. And never. It was a mad time. And I'm not saying it wasn't horrible and very shocking. I mean, you see something like that. It's like The Purge. And you're like, well, what happens now? If that, then what? You know what I mean? Then... people on horseback with machine guns. Do you know what I mean? It's not like it's... And that's what's so been mad about the last couple of years. And I suppose about the Trump presidency. But you know what was also particularly interesting around that kind of time, those kind of months, is after that, all the big what do you call it? Online platforms deplatformed Trump. So it started off with Twitter, and then Facebook, now Meta, banned him for inciting violence. But what I found really interesting was that Twitch was the last one to be like, we can't abide by this. His goes completely against the gamer code. Bro, I know you want to rock up there with your guns and everything like that, but this is so I'm sorry, Mr. President, we have to ban you, man. You cannot stream on Twitch anymore. So the 44th president's Friday Animal Crossing session is now permanently cancelled, you know? But you know what I think, Mr. Trump? You goddamn trash bag. You belong in the Killian Binliner conference, man. What I think about you, man, is maybe you incited the riot so you didn't have to debate me, rumple foreskin live in person on Twitch. That's what I think. And then at Joe Biden's inauguration. Hey, we had this guy on Corn Pop. We said, hey, all the black kids, I want to touch your hair. I was like, stop talking. Whoa, bro. Please stop talking. I know you mean well. So at his inauguration, the savior of America, Joe Biden, at his inauguration, you got Bernie Sanders sitting there. Bernie Sanders, the only man who probably could have made deep, fundamental change to an incredibly corrupt system, just sitting there with his mittens. A man who just was, had the Democrats just not fucked him over, and he got in the 2016 election and just would have been, all right, look, this is just the year for the outsiders. Let's just accept that. This is just the year for the outsiders, and we'll hope our outsider will 100% win, which would have been Sanders. And he's sitting there watching J-Lo singing, let's get loud. Let's get loud. Let's get loud. While Biden's fighting sleep. Right, we had a couple of people who died, unfortunately, this year. You had Larry King, and you had Norm MacDonald, which I actually think, I don't know, I think he would have found funny, because he was good friends with Larry King, but he used to slag him about how old he was, and how he looked like literal death. I think he would have found it quite funny that that he only marginally outlived Larry King. DMX, that was a crazy one. Stephen Sondheim, who actually had quite the revival after his death. I mean, he dies, and then he's got that cameo in Lin-Manuel Miranda's Tick, Tick, Boom, played by Bradley Whitford. Any of these names mean nothing to you. And then also, of course, because of the West Side Story, which is meant to be incredible. I'm really looking forward to seeing it. Steven Spielberg's West Side Story is back. And then Michael K. Williams, Omar, from The Wire, which I haven't got to rewatch recently. People be like, you got Cove, man, you made just rewatch The Wire, man, just put your fucking feet up, man. Yeah, The Wire, is that the show with the CGI lullabies, is it? Well, then I haven't a fucking hope, mate, of putting that on the TV, with great respect. Sorry, I went Cockney there. I just got so upset you saying that shit to me. I have 90 minutes of entertainment an evening, right, if I'm lucky. And we've been watching The Witcher recently. Do you know what my issue with The Witcher Season 2 is, right? And it was the same thing I had with Witcher Season 1. Not enough Witcher. I feel like I'm looking for Poochie. Every time Witcher's not on screen, I'm like, where's Poochie? And I'm like, where's Witcher? What I want, right, is Mandalorian with Henry Cavill as The Witcher. You know what I mean? He shows up, the town is distraught, there is, a werewolf, or a werewolf, or a fucking griffin, and he's like, found a bit of, turns out your mayor's been paying goat hearts to a griffin or whatever, and there's a bit of corruption, that someone's been hiding the fact that there's an animal, and he has to get involved with all this stuff, and then he inevitably has to kill it using incredible, magic and potions and just wit, like Columbo. He's like, and one more thing, you're also the monster. It's brilliant. I love all that. But then you got all the shit with the mages, and you're like, shut up, mate. Shut up. I'm also really dumb, and I keep saying to Terry, I don't have a fucking clue what's going on. Watched Armageddon the other day, and I always, for a second, I didn't know what was going on, and it was terrifying, because it's a really dumb movie. In fact, highly recommend you do this. If you can get Armageddon with the commentary, Ben Affleck's commentary of Armageddon is incredible. He just talks over the scenes. He's like, wow, this is like some Miller Genuine Draft fucking commercial. I'm actually getting quite emotional. And he's like, so let me get this straight. It's smarter to train convict oil men to be astronauts in 18 days rather than astronauts on how to use an oil rig in 18 days. And he's like, this does not make sense to me. But it's really, really smart, and he's very kind of genuine about it. He's also brilliant in the film. Anyway, so a few people died. Daft Punk broke up. Nothing is sacred. Look, I didn't get to see them live. Let me tell you this. If you have someone that you love, an artist, and they happen to be playing. If you kind of like Billy Joel, if you kind of like Elton John, he's playing in Cork, go see Elton John. Do you know what? If it's £100, put tenner away a month and just go see Elton John. Trust me, you need to see these people. I am so grateful that I've seen Bruce and I've seen Paul McCartney. I saw Paul McCartney at that gig. That was the same gig I saw. I was screaming at Eddie Hobbs. I don't know how much the ticket cost, right? I don't remember that. What I remember is sitting there so drunk in the point that I was smoking a cigarette indoors after the cigarette ban, screaming at Eddie Hobbs. And those are memories that will last you for life. Eddie Hobbs, hey, after he waved. And those are very important moments. So it's a shame I never got to see Daft Punk. My wife saw them in Colorado at the kind of Red Rock. That's that kind of natural Grand Canyon fucking amphitheater. Looks incredible. I'm incredibly jealous about it. I don't bring it up very often. You had Game Stonks and Dogecoin wreaking havoc. What does any of that mean? Let me tell you. So GameStop, the stock, and AMC was a huge thing. And I kind of, this is what I like, right? A lot of people thought that they were manipulating the market, but it's because these are some people who are literate in the market, proficient in how the market works, that they don't like it becoming accessible for everyone. But really all it was a bunch of people, kids, who grew up hanging out in the mall. They'd go to GameStop, they'd get a fucking Funko Pop, they'd get a secondhand game, they'd go see a movie in an AMC theater. So the things that they liked, that they saw were failing, they bought money in. They invested. They invested in the things that they grew up with. And then what that essentially ended up doing was, destroying some serious hedge funds who had shorted the inevitability of GameStop and AMC cinemas going out of business. But it was a beautiful thing, It ended up, of course, as all things do, kind of getting a bit tarnished at the end, and people on, Reddit bets or whatever it was, kind of misleading people. But there was also some people who couldn't believe that their investment in the stock, it was making everyone rich. Everyone buying it was making everyone rich. And it was a sweet thing to see. But don't forget that this is what's mad. Like, I was listening to a Tony Robbins book because I'm into that shit again, right? Sue me, right? I'm into Tony Robbins shit again. And he was literally breaking down, he wasn't crying, he was breaking down how in America, if you put away like 200 or 300 quid a month, which isn't easy, I'm saying, but like if you save up a couple of £100 over the course of like 10 years, and even if you get to 20 or 30 grand, by saving up that money like you would for a deposit, and then you invest all that, you can put them in all the Fortune 500. You can invest them in one stock that is all of the top 500 companies, and it is guaranteed to improve over time, so that in 30 years time after that, not even before you're looking to retire, it's worth, between 1.5 and 2 million. He's looked at it like that's what's happened every single time, and even after a global recession, everything tends to bounce back in the average of the 500 companies. So you can make, if you are literate in that world, you can make millions. So people who still weren't necessarily literate in that world just wanted to support the companies they like. Nothing wrong with that. Anyway, next up, Elon Musk superseded Jeff Bezos, mate, as the richest man alive. How? I don't understand it. I don't understand how Tesla stock is so inflated. Why isn't Toyota, the CEO of Toyota, the richest man in the world? They own Lexus. They own everything, don't they? I think they do. Like, why isn't that the richest man? How is Elon Musk, a man who doesn't even own Tesla but has a lot of stock in it, and owns SpaceX, who's getting money? How are SpaceX getting money? Do you know what I mean? How is he the richest man in the world when Jeff Bezos is literally like life hacking supermarkets? Like, you're only spending your money on Amazon. Not everyone's buying a Tesla. Everyone's shopping on Amazon. Everyone's using Amazon. Amazon web services is 1/3 of the global cloud. Everything that you're seeing, more or less, all the porn, it's Amazon space. How is that possible? Anyway, here's a couple of things he did. He cast doubt about the safety of the COVID-19 vaccine with zero evidence. He blamed the UN on why he can't end world hunger. But you know what? I don't like all that shit. Whatever. Of course, there is a responsibility on people who are billionaires to do more with their billions. But the idea that the UN is like, hey, bitch, why don't you end world hunger? And he's like, hey, bitch, hey, Senator Karen, calling Nancy Pelosi Senator Karen. Listen, there is no way. Let me tell you that if we're at a dinner party, right, and me and my wife are having a chat and we have an argument, I kind of think that I'm right. And then my wife convinces me otherwise. But we're at a dinner, right? And she convinces me otherwise. There is not a hope in hell that I'm going to back down on my argument in public. Okay? And that's at a dinner table of 6 people, right? If I have 1 billion people or 100 million or however many people might be following or accessible to this conversation, there is no way I'm going to back down. Do you not think it is important in any kind of dialogue that someone has to back down or say, do you know what, you're right, I never thought of it that way? There's no way that is ever going to happen. And everyone thinks they're having these conversations or arguments or debates, but there can never be a debate unless someone can actually agree that they lose. And so if you don't have that, then everyone's just going to, use quantum computing to prove them right, even if it doesn't make sense, and end up creating some AI that kills everyone. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's going to go to a point where, well, I can't be wrong, so I have to double down on this thing, rather than saying, do you know what, you're right, I never thought of it that way. I will actually do that thing that you asked me to, So don't trust Twitter. Don't trust how people talk on Twitter. Because if you actually said to something in private, they'd probably be like, do you know what, you're right, and I see your point. So what else did he do? He let people buy Tesla using cryptos, and then he said psych. And see, this is the thing. He also just is a troll. He's the Todd Phillips of Twitter, right? He's a joker. So you can't really expect, if the Joker says, yeah, you can buy Gotham with NFTs, you'd be like, all right, well, okay. I'm just going to put that in the pile of shit that the Joker says. And then we're going to have Batman analyze it for clues. But we're not going to we're going to respond to that. Do you know what I mean? We're not going to believe everything that he says because he's the Joker, That's one side of being a super billionaire on Twitter. The other side is like J.K. Rowling, where you're like, well, I had a dinner party and I had a lot of people agree about what we believe gender is, and I thought I would just kind of apply that, say that without really knowing that the people who made you a billionaire or 100 millionaire are these same little shy nerds who don't feel comfortable in their skin, who are now crying because they think that there's some subtext in the book that they loved, that you made them so happy with, because it was about outsiders not feeling like you belonged, and now you're making them cry, and you don't understand that you're making them cry, and really it isn't that important to you. It doesn't really matter to you at all. Like, it's not really that important. You just don't want to be wrong because you've been so comfortable for so long. Remember, you used to be poor. You sat in that little cafe in Edinburgh, and you probably would have agreed with anyone. You probably would have had a conversation with anyone. How far you've come. Anyway, I'm just saying. Just don't listen to people on Twitter. Anyway, what else? So here we go. Yes, a victory for Twitter. The nerds finally get their damn Snyder cut. Absolutely, Twitter is a monumental and resourceful, very important resource. So Zack Snyder released the Snyder Cut this year, which actually feels like maybe 2 years ago. That's a 2021 thing. And I really enjoyed it. The 6-hour version of... was it 6 hours? Anyway, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great. I thought it was good. I like the fact that it was... I have a whole podcast on it. I have a podcast saying that I was looking forward to it, and then I have a podcast where I actually watched it. And I did really enjoy it. I liked something just owning what it was and not looking over its shoulder for a gag. And look, I love a gag. Thor Ragnarok is probably one of the best Marvel movies there is. But, it also is the end of Asgard, and I don't think that is really treated with the same... volume. Now you have the God Killer coming into the next one, Christian Bale, and I know the reason why Taika Waititi is such a good director in Marvel is because they pre-make everything, and all they can really control is how people act the scenes of the dialogue. He doesn't necessarily write the script, so it's how people are responding to the dialogue. So when you see that as an extreme, you got Chloe Zhao, and everything's very intense, and you're like, okay, this is cool, and it looks great, and you're getting a lot of incredible scenery here. But, you're making me feel serious about people I don't really care about. And then you got Thor being like, now you're kind of, we're all having a good time here, but you're kind of being flippant about the entire destruction of an entire planet, And so, look, I don't know what I like. But I did think it was interesting just for them to be like, oh, this is the sort of shit that we're into. These are big gods and we treat them as such. I enjoyed the Snyder Cut. And it's not to say that I didn't like, look, I do like Thor Ragnarok. I love Thor Ragnarok. That was that. Great. You know what I mean? It's like when Robin Williams comes in as the genie. You're like, this is amazing. But I know how things can develop from here. Where you have Chris Pratt, and I like Chris Pratt, being Garfield, and, fucking... who else is he again? He's Garfield, and he's Mario. And you're like, okay, that's too much. The Rock. I like The Rock. You want all the rock? No. You have to have plenty of the rock. Thank you very much. I don't need any more raps from the rock or Red Notice or anything like that. Anyway, moving on. So the US government was basically like, yeah, we have UFOs. Deal with it. So all these Tic Tacs started popping up. And look, I'm going to say this. This actually, weirdly enough, happened in Canada years before, where the original Secretary of Defense, he's a war hero in Canada because he unified the Army and the Navy and the Air Force. He, under his kind of, as the Secretary of Defense, he was able to unify them all into one cohesive thing, which is a very difficult thing to do. They were all separate entities. He admitted to knowing about the existence of extraterrestrials and the existence of different species of extraterrestrials and went before the Canadian equivalent of Congress or whatever it was to give all this evidence. Now the US government is like, and you can look it up, it's like 10 years old. And now the US government is like, yeah, there are UFOs and yeah, there's proof of them and here's everything and it's all declassified. And they're letting it out. They're trickling it out very easy. And I'm suspicious of that because they trickled it out under Trump's presidency. So I don't know. I'm suspicious of it. Why are you telling us this? Why do you want us getting used to this? Do you know what I mean? You wouldn't tell us this unless... maybe they released it because they're like, oh, people will freak. Because in the 50s, there was like 5 things you could think about. And now this doesn't even... aliens existing doesn't even come into the first 100 things that I think about in a day. It doesn't... And it is something that we all should have been like jumping up on fucking Oprah's couch over, But I feel like I don't really have a say on the things that I jump up on Oprah's couch about in my own mind. But what my theory is, not necessarily a theory, but what I'd be terrified of, there's a plot in Watchmen, in Alan Moore's comic Watchmen. And skip ahead 2 minutes if you don't want the comic Watchmen to be spoiled. If you haven't read it, I would actually skip ahead 2 minutes because it is an incredible comic. All right, 2 minutes starting now. Right, so at the end of Watchmen, Ozymandias, the smartest man in the world, basically stages a fake alien attack. He gets all these movie monster creators to make, I think it's actually a living organism of living flesh, these giant aliens, and tries to stage this fake alien invasion. Because in Watchmen, it takes place in a fake alternate dimension or alternate reality where there was no Watergate scandal and Nixon kept on. And it's at the height, really, of the kind of, Russia and American relations. Each leader has their finger on the button and, New York is a cesspool and, just there's no human connection and all this stuff. And Ozymandias' idea is that if he launches this and kills millions of people, by the way, but basically stages this thing like this alien tried to arrive through another dimension, it somehow didn't make it through and it exploded and kills, I think it's like 5 million people in New York is the death toll at the end. In the movie, in the Zack Snyder movie actually, they changed it to Dr. Manhattan so that it was actually Dr. Manhattan that did it rather than an alien coup. But what his plan is that this is the only thing that will unify people as a species. Ronald Reagan even said it, and I've said it before on my podcast, that he says, what will it take to unify the globe if not an extraterrestrial threat? So now with this familiar taste of kind of global rule, and I'm not being so critical of it. I certainly have some issues with it being completely the way it is. Mainly the power of the pharmaceutical industries now. Now, like, how do you go back from when you invent a vaccine and then you get rid of the virus? Everything we should learn about the history of Big Pharma is that they want something to continue. Not to say that they're going to keep doing it, but they're going to keep promoting all of the vaccines for every... I mean, there was the head of Moderna who said that there needs to be a vaccine for Omicron, and that's not his say. He has the fucking power of the stock. He's not necessarily down there. He's not a scientist. And Trevor Noah got a lot of shit for being critical of a millionaire saying that we need to sell more of this thing. So just in terms of critical thinking, but I think with the familiar taste of global rule, is this any good? I wouldn't be surprised if a country or a Bond villain decides to stage something on behalf of a nation to say, and maybe if America were to say, they won't, But if America were to stage a fake alien invasion after people have gotten used to aliens and gotten used to of global rule, and they said, now we are the only people who have the defense, so you either go our way or the highway. I don't even know what that means really, but you know what I mean? Is there not some benefit there? I don't think it's going to happen, but I do think that there is a strategic reason that these are being leaked now for something else that's soon to come. And I think it'll be 2030. It'll be 2 years after. Actually, no, I don't know. It might be about 5 years from now. 2027. There'll be an alien attack. Meghan Markle and husband Prince Harry did the now iconic Oprah interview in March. Yeah, it was great. It even led to fucking Piers Morgan leaving a Good Morning Britain, walking off. I mean, he really just... he's such an emotional guy, isn't he? And even when he wasn't invited to the Adele thing, and then he's like, so Adele, tell me this, what kind of losers are there? What a loser, what a big loser. But like, it's so unfortunate that like, isn't that so embarrassing? Isn't Piers Morgan just so embarrassing that he acts like a jerk, but it's so brazenly he wants to be loved? Isn't that so sad and hilarious? Clubhouse, oh my god, yeah, here we go. Clubhouse was the next big thing until it quickly wasn't. Clubhouse really pissed me off. Everyone's in the house. I didn't want to be in the house. Listen, I didn't want to be in the house once. I accidentally got a call, and I love my friends from London, my old workmates in sales, but they called me one time when I was like, what is this? This is such a call, and I didn't know what I was getting myself into. They were out in the pub having a good time, and I was like, oh, this is so overwhelming. I look like shit. I didn't want to get on the call. So I didn't necessarily want to be called on Clubhouse, but I also didn't want anyone else to be in the house. There was a couple of days everyone was in on the house, and I'm like, where was my invite to the house? But I didn't want to be in on the house, but I didn't want anyone else to have the fun. So I'm so glad they got rid of that. Oh, here we go. The guy who allegedly found shrimp tails in his Cinnamon Toast Crunch got milkshake ducked, it says here on Mashable. Is that a verb? What the fuck are you talking about? Milkshake ducked? This is one of those jump the shark things, right? Where milkshake duck, from what I understand, is when something that's an internet phenomenon that everyone can get behind. A duck drinking a milkshake. Until in this case, the example, you find out that the duck is a racist. So you see it all the time. This singing homeless man has wooed the hearts of a nation, and then you find out why he's homeless. It's because he assaulted someone, and you're like, oh, so you're not a lovable hobo from the Polar Express, So in this case, it was a guy called Jensen Karp, who I'm familiar with. He's a comedy writer, and I think he is the head writer for various shows. He found these shrimp tails. I think he might be Jewish, so that's not particularly kosher, having crustaceans in your cereal. And he kicked off about it. A bit too loud, I thought, and being quite like aggressive with General Mills, I think it was, who were responsible for it. And he even said he was going to send it off for research and everything like that, send it off for testing. They tried to get the shrimp tails off him just to test them, and he was like, no way, man, you're going to just make me out to be a kook. And then a load of women, alleged victims, came forward and said that he was a gaslighting, horrible employer, a horrible boyfriend, said that the various women should kill themselves. And it's like, I don't mean to be flippant about it, but like, he was literally just being like, my kid could have had a shrimp tail. And then he made a big deal about it, was really enjoying the viral fame. And it's just inevitable until, but I don't know if anyone can survive that. I don't know if anyone can survive that much limelight before someone is willing just to, and I'm not saying it's, anyone's like, hey, don't be giving this guy praise. But like, praise for, no. Sorry. I mean, everyone gets to know everything if they want, certainly if it's a victim of something. But I wasn't following him for his stance, for his character. I was trying to find out what happens to these shrimp tails, And I know there's some degrees of that people can tolerate. I don't want to watch any Woody Allen movies because I don't really knowing what he can do and knowing how he can manipulate kids. I'm like, oh, I don't find that charming. So these movies lose the charm, Similarly, I don't know. For a while, I couldn't watch Louis C.K. stuff. I can watch it again now for some reason. But for a while, I couldn't because I'm like, oh, this whole wanking thing is like, oh, he's deplorable. Like, it's not a joke. He's a sexual pervert, and he's just so candidly showing it in front of everyone. But anyway, what else here? Let's see. Kim and Kanye announced their divorce. Keeping Up with the Kardashians finished its last season. Don't know anything about either of them. The Olympics happened. And what you have? You had Kelly Harrington. Go on, Kelly! Go on, Kelly. What would have been a fairly grim, and it was. Every morning I was waking up, and waking up trying to catch it in the morning because I was up with my young fella. And it was like another disappointment there for the Irish. What happened? He just didn't, he didn't do it. He didn't do it fast enough, or she didn't do it fast enough, or they made a few mistakes, And then Kelly, come on, fucking Kelly. You don't even want to say or swear around her name. She's great. I love Kelly Harrington. Let's see. Zoomers popularized the term chuggy, giving millennials one more way to feel bad and irrelevant. That's the kind of live, laugh, love, kind of white, kind of painted beechwood kind of shit. Couple of nonces got done in. Prince Andrew was hit with a US lawsuit for sexual abuse of a minor. Look, can I just tell you, bro, Prince Andrew, word of warning, mate. Even though you to say in your defense about why you're not a pedophile, to say that, oh well, that couldn't have happened, that she said that I sweat, I don't sweat, is so creepy that you may as well be a paedophile. Do you know what I mean? Well, I don't sweat, so there's no way that could have happened to me. She said I sweat, well, I actually don't sweat because I got shell shock in the war. Like, what are you talking about? Oh my God, what are you talking about? And as well, so him being a pedo, and then R. Kelly was found guilty of all 9 counts of racketeering and sex trafficking. So there you are. That's there you are. That's sorry, I don't know why I bended on that. And then Tiger King 2 came out. I haven't seen it. I'm not interested. So there you are. The nonsense got done. And, if you look at that, there is a couple of things there. It is such a monumental change. I know it can feel like some things aren't really changing and things are kind of stuck in the mud. But the fact that you can have a Prince get done for being a nonce, and R. Kelly, who everyone joked about and was so brazen about it and admitted to everything, and now he's finally getting done. Times, they are a-changing. And Alison Mack as well, who I fancied from Smallville, also was sentenced to 3 years in prison for her part in the Nexivum sex cult, where she was kind of like the Ghislaine Maxwell of this sex cult, bringing women in for this guru leader, cult leader. It's a crazy story. I should probably even do a whole podcast on it. They were even like branding people with like hot iron brands. It was a mad time. And then these are things that we would have forgotten about. And Squid Game, of course, which I liked, but I can't. Well, who are the people in the red? That's what I want to know. Anyway, look, hopefully you enjoyed this recap. I will do a more personal recap in 2022 of the year past. Favorite games, favorite movies, favorite TV shows. But for now, I'm going to leave you there. And again, I want to say a huge thank you to everyone who has donated to Merchants Quay Ireland. I now have to get back to doing those video messages. And there couldn't be a better thing for me to be snowed under to do. And a huge thank you to everyone who is donated there. I got a couple of dates for you, mate. Right, I'm going on tour. in 2022. Tony Cantwell Pony is coming to a town near you, and on the 25th of February I'll be performing in Westport in the Town Hall. On the 26th of February I'll be performing in Galway in the Black Box Theatre. On March 4th I'll be performing in Limerick in Dowlands, mate. On the 24th, 25th and 26th, I'll be in Dublin for Vicar Street. The 25th and 26th are sold out, but on March 24th, it's just been announced there are still tickets available for that one, and there should be some good seats as well because it's just been announced. On April 26th in Dundalk, I'm finally coming to the Spirit Storm, mate. I've been meaning to get down to you, or up to you. I remember geography. And Spirit Store was cancelled, but it's finally happening. I'm so nervous. On April 24th, I'll be in the Set Theatre in Kilkenny. On April 28th, in the Whale Theatre in Greystones. I think that still has to go on sale, but that's when it'll be. And on May 1st, a big gig in Cork in the Everyman Theatre on Sunday, the 1st of May. I'm really excited about going on tour, and I'm hoping that things are a bit more chill and I can actually get to hang out and take photos with everyone at the end of the show and chat properly, especially if you've been a listener of this pod. If you're a patron of this pod, I would love to chat to you. If you are a patron of this pod, thank you very much. If you're not, I would love to recommend that you check something out. In this year, I've done pretty much a full year of Patreon podcasts, so that means there's over 50. There's over 50 podcasts. I never skip a week on the Patreon because people pay for it directly. So if you say for Christmas you want to treat yourself and you want to have 50 other podcasts, there's going to be a couple of best ofs that are happening I'll be putting out, but this is the last podcast I'll be releasing here on the main feed. If you want to hear some podcasts you've never heard before, arguably better, some people have told me, podcasts, go over to patreon.com, type in Tony Cantwell there, and there's also a link in my link tree on Instagram if you want to check that out. It's the equivalent of a price of a pint every single month, and you know what, because of fucking dry Jan and the fact that you're not going to be able to go out after 8 and you want to put that pint to good use, you can send it my way over on the Patreon. Thank you very much for listening to this pod. I'm very grateful. Thank you for your very kind, committed support. Have a great Christmas. Have a fabulous 2022. And I'll be back on Jan the 4th. But between now and then, you'll be hearing a couple of best ofs on this and the Patreon podcast. All the best. Bye-bye. It's Tony Cantwell Shitshow.